Lost Desmond.
To comment during the Frankly Speaking show, you first need to open the video that is being streamed live. Look for the chat box on the side or bottom of the video player. This is where you can type your message. Click inside the chat box and use your keyboard to type out what you want to say. You can type words, use emojis, or even ask questions. Once you've typed your message,
OBEAH, OBEAH, the very mention of it once drove fear into the minds of many, frankly speaking. Recently, leaders of the church were making public their rejection of any move in the courts to normalize OBEAH or strike down sections of the 19th century OBEAH Act. Frankly speaking, those who oppose the position of the church argue for religious freedom, African retention, and respect for rights generally, among other things. Good day, I'm Frankly McKnight, and with me are Desmond Richards and Winnie Anderson Brown. We invite you to subscribe to the Frankly Speaking Jamaica YouTube channel. The Gleaner newspaper reporting on the church's organized march against OBEAH quoted Bishop Rowan Edwards as saying that the practice of OBEAH is sinful and should not be legalized. The practice of OBEAH is sinful and should not be legalized. He also said, whatever name you want to call it, we cannot allow for the demonic practice to be here. So we are praying and protesting that the government upholds the law in the continued role that OBEAH is simply wrong. That was Mr. Edwards. Frankly speaking, OBEAH is one of those things with which the nation has not got comfortable or about which the Jamaican people are uncertain. Professor Clinton Hutton and church deacon and long-serving commentator Peter Espeut will take us through the fuss about OBEAH. Then we want to explore a new initiative of the Jamaica Urban Transit Company, JUTC, that has launched a rural express bus service. We'll speak with Communications Director Chantal Thompson there. But before Winnie poses the first question to Professor Hutton, let's thank our viewers and listeners for joining us. We welcome questions and comments during the show. Just use the procedure outlined at the top of the show or place your questions and comments in the space provided on the channel. We'll try our best to respond. Winnie, it's over to you for the first question.
Yes, Professor Hutton, my question to you is this. In a Christian country where our national anthem speaks to God, how can we embrace any of the occult practices, including OBEAH?
Well, I don't know what is called a cult. What I do know is that about 1 million Africans were taken into Jamaica into enslavement. Slavery lasted in Jamaica for 329 years. In that process in which people were worked without pay for some 12 generations and were subjected to the most horrible conditions. Hell on earth. They were forced to eat human excrement. They were beaten as a matter of course, whipped in all ways. They were castrated. They had their limbs amputated. They were forced to eat substandard food, including animals that died from diseases. This happened for 329 years. In that process as well, they were endeavoring to educate the people to forget who they are and to abide by the identity constructed for them by the slaveholders. That's what happened. The people resisted their enslavement by doing what they could only have done, by connected to their ancestral philosophies, their ancestral rituals, their ancestral culture, and to rework those within the context of enslavement. And so, for example, all the struggles against slavery were led by people who were practicing some versions of African spirituality, of African religious practices and rituals. Taki, who launched a major uprising, one could argue that is the major Pan-African uprising in Jamaica at the time, because it involved different ethnic groups, different nations of Africans, and not just one, like say Akan, but different Africans coming from different nations. That they used Taki was deemed to be an OBEAH man, as was Nani. All the uprising against slavery were led by spiritual people, men and women, in the tradition of African philosophy, in the tradition which says we are our ancestors and our ancestors are us, in which they carried out rituals to summon the ancestors to march with them into war, as in 1760, Taki uprising, as in the 1831-1832 uprising led by Sam Sharp, as in the 1865 uprising led by Paul Bogle. In all of these uprisings, the people were accused of practicing witchcraft, of practicing, indeed, the first law against OBEAH was passed in response to the uprising against slavery led by Taki. 1760 was the first law. And then you have versions of those laws throughout the rest of that century, throughout the 19th century. In fact, the 1898 law is the one that, OBEAH law is the one we are operating off now. But that itself has seen several versions and alterations, including in 2013, when I think they removed capital whipping from the bill and so on. But people used to be whipped for that. People were executed for practicing their spirituality. Before the Morant Bay uprising, and certainly this month will be the 160th anniversary of the Morant Bay uprising. On October 10th, the eve of the uprising in 1865, there were over 500 people summoned and assembled in Stony Gut, the headquarters of Paul Bogle. And they had a tea party. The essence of the tea party and the essence of the oaths that were taken prior to that, the months prior to that. Because after they went to Spanish Town and they were rejected, they walked from Stony Gut to Kingston, took a train from Kingston to Spanish Town to deliver some resolutions to Governor Eyre, and they refused to take the resolution, and they refused to see them. And that is when the struggle took another step forward. It entered
Prof, I'm going to ask you for a pause because I would love to hear Peter as we respond to the question that Winnie asked, because you have framed it, Prof, in the context of religiosity, of positives, of calling the ancestors. But there are lots of people who see OBEAH as something that is evil. And I want to suggest that Peter Espeut might be one of them, because in his column on Friday, very erudite presentation, he seemed to have framed it in that way. So Peter, defend yourself, sir.
Well, just before you go, the law has always framed it that way. The law has always framed OBEAH to be equivalent to Maoism.
Yes.
It's in the law.
Which is not so.
Right? It is in the law.
Yes.
The law is saying it. And if you follow the debates that took place around these laws and their alterations, they were very clear what they were talking about.
Okay. Peter.
Let us hear Peter.
Thanks, Franklin. So let me say, first of all, that we have to be careful that we're not using too much of a broad brush in this discussion. Your preamble said that the church, whenever I hear people say the church, and I know Jamaica has more churches per square mile than anywhere else, so it is alleged. The church is not the church, there are many different churches.
Yes.
And certainly my church did not join any protests against changing anything in the 1898 Act. So let's make it very clear that when you say the church, you have to have a texture. By the same token, the 1760 Act, as well as the one that's operating now, as Clinton quite correctly says, makes no distinction between OBEAH and Mile. This is important because Mile, which is also an African religion, Mile is dead set against OBEAH. Mileists believe, in fact, that OBEAH is evil, just like Christians. And the Mileists, if you read the literature of the period, went through Jamaica digging up OBEAH all over the place, nailing so-called OBEAH to cotton trees, and basically blaming all the evils of the country on OBEAH. So the idea that OBEAH is evil, clearly white people thought that all African religion was to be done away with. Clinton is quite right. Part of the destruction of African culture was destruction of African religion. That's quite true. No debate about that. But OBEAH and Mile are not the same thing. And let us agree that the white people thought that both OBEAH and Mile were evil. But black people did not think so. Black people at the time were very clear that OBEAH was not good, and that is why the Mileists fought against it. Up to today, the descendants of the Mileists, which are revival Zion people, fight against OBEAH. So we need a little texture in the argument. We can't just say African religion and lump OBEAH and Mile in the same category. That's what the white people did. We must not make the same mistake that white people made in 1760. There is texture to African religion. Now, we Christians believe in good and evil. We believe that there is evil. And we reject evil and we accept good. I don't believe that my brother Clinton would accept evil. He also will reject evil. The question is, what is evil? That is the question. And the Mayalists describe OBEAH as being evil, which is why black people, Mayalists, have been fighting against OBEAH for 400 years. And the fact that Christians also agree with the Mayalists that OBEAH is evil. We Christians are one and brethren with the Mayalists on this regard. And so we say that we must reject evil wherever we find it. And we consider that OBEAH is, as an African religion, the problem with OBEAH is not that it's African, you know. Let's make it very clear. Because as I said in my column on Friday, white people have their equivalent of OBEAH. Their witchcraft and their seances and their Ouija boards and all this kind of thing. And we reject that as well. Let us not be too Afrophilic and Afrocentric about this. We're talking religion
Peter,
here.
briefly, Peter, you are saying OBEAH is evil. Peter, yeah, doesn't just get this one, Desmond, and then you come to
Mayal is not evil, no.
OBEAH, I'm saying OBEAH.
Part of the OBEAH Act, the part of the 1898 Act that criminalizes Mayal should be repealed. But I think the jury is out on the question of OBEAH.
Right.
And certainly not taking my evidence, but the evidence of hundreds of thousands of black people who believe that OBEAH is evil. I will go with that.
All right. Winnie, you want to take those comments before Desmond asks his question?
Yes, please help me. Please help me, Joshua. Carlene. Oh, Jeffrey Worrell says, greetings, everyone. There was a comment by Carlene Smith. Blessed afternoon. She had a longer comment than that. Okay. It says, why hasn't the church issued a whole body position on this issue instead of few churches conveniently distancing themselves? Yes, distinguishing before distancing. Yeah.
Desmond, go ahead, Desmond. One of you will come back, and then we'll come back to Prof. Go ahead, Desmond.
One of the things that we have been brainwashed, black people, because the religion that dominates Jamaica is a Western imposed religion. Black people, these were the same pastors and religious people who blessed the slave ships. So the religion that we are upholding in Jamaica is religion that was imposed on us and had nothing to do with as Professor pointed out, African religion, where white people made sure that African religion was abolished. And so for the church in Jamaica to be standing out against OBEAH, it is just part of the brainwashing that we have gone through, that we accept a white God, a white Jesus, and have that as our...
Come now, Desmond.
We worship
Desmond.
We worship every day. Yes.
You didn't listen to a word I said.
Peter is responding. Go ahead, Peter.
Where did you hear me say? Where did you hear me say, Desmond, that Christianity objects to OBEAH? I never said that. I said black people's religion called Mayal. Black people's religion. No, but we are having a discussion,
Reverend,
and I said something. You must respond to me. I am saying black people's religion called Mayal is what is against OBEAH. Black people's religion called Mayal, called Revival Zion, is against OBEAH. I never said anything about Christianity being against OBEAH. It's black people's authentic religion called Mayal, called Revival Zion, that is against OBEAH. You are saying white people Christianity is against. That could be true.
Well, allow Desmond to say what he's saying. Allow Desmond to say what he's saying.
What I am saying is that Christianity, your church, and the religion that we have in Jamaica was imposed on black people. That's what I am
Is that the
saying.
topic we are discussing? Is that the topic, Mr. Chairman?
No, that's not what we're discussing.
I am happy
No.
to come here another day and discuss the imposition of European religion on Jamaica.
Yeah,
I
no,
didn't think that was a
we're
topic.
discussing OBEAH and McKnight.
OBEAH.
Yes, well, let's talk about that.
No.
OBEAH is African. OBEAH is original African, right? And therefore, for churches in Jamaica to be opposing to it is that they have just been brainwashed.
All right, and what he's saying in defense of Desmond is that there are some of the churches that are doing that. All right, and we have a question, but we want to go back to.
I'm saying it's the black people's churches that are against OBEAH. The white people's churches have said nothing.
Prof, I don't want to lose this question I'm asking you. Do you accept that OBEAH is essentially evil?
No.
Why is that?
Let us do a number of things. One, Christianity in Jamaica was violently opposed to OBEAH. Was violently opposed to all expression of African religious practices. Mayal is really a composite of African Jamaican spirituality.
Correct.
Right? Mayal is derived from a Congolese word.
Quite so.
It means spirit. And Mayal dance is really spirit possession. Because dance or possession is possession, spirit possession is deemed to be, is described as a dance in the head. That the spirit dance in your head and you make the movement that the spirit makes in your head. That's what you do when you are possessed by that spirit. In other words, you're not doing it of yourself. You're doing what the spirit is actually doing in your head. Because for that period of time, you are in the spirit.
Absolutely right.
No. Christianity in Jamaica, the history of Christianity in Jamaica is a history of them, Christianity, doing everything to root out everything that was African. And the literature is there to show it. If you look, and these are books written by preachers from Europe, and what they said about native Baptist practices and pre-native Baptist practices, they are in their books. They regard all of those things as evil. And their purpose in life was to root out all of that. Because it is, as far as they're concerned, it is in contradiction with Christianity. It is in contradiction with what they regard as civilized society. It is in contradiction with anything that is good. And that is why all African spirituality was regarded as
evil,
as a form of evil. Right? So we in Jamaica, and I have studied widely beyond Jamaica, but we in Jamaica, I'm talking about the Christians in Jamaica now, have actually, they came out against African Jamaican religious practices, and that is reflected in the law. That is reflected in the law, which says that Mayalism, that OBEAH is the same thing as Mayalism.
Ignorance.
Reflected there, right? No, it is the Christians who killed Samuel Sharp. It's the Christians who killed Taki.
True.
It is the Christians who killed Paul Bogle.
Yes. And Maroons.
And not only that, they killed them. if I have written a book on the Morant Bay Uprising,
I've read it.
and you should hear what they have said about, for example, they have argued, and one of the reasons why they are against OBEAH and MIAL, which they said is the same thing, one of the reasons why they are opposed to it was the fact that it encompassed a belief system in the leaders of these practices were able to command the loyalty of the people who were fighting against slavery. And that is why in 1865, one of the major, Colonel Francis Hobbs, one of the major leader of the suppression of Morant Bay and where to destroy Stony Gut, he said that the place reeked with nihilism, right? So what we do know, we can take it from there, because in 1760, the oaths that were taken never have any Christian elements in there. The oath taken, administered by Taki and so on. By 1865, when Christianity crept into the practices, our embrace, elements of it embraced, because what Africans have done is weave what they consider to be the positive elements of all spirituality, including East Indian spirituality. I
want to bring in back Peter again.
And so
I want to bring in, but I also want to mention very quickly a question which you see from one of the respondents, Carlin Smith, who's asking, who's saying, please let you respond to that position. The Europeans labeled OBEAH and African practices as evil out of fear. Religion was one of the tools of colonialization. But you go ahead.
Let me say that I think I'm a little confused, because when you say your topic is OBEAH in the church, are we talking about the 21st century church, or are we talking about the 19th century church? Because what I'm hearing out of Clinton and Desmond is they're giving me all kind of arguments about what they say in the 1700s and what they say in the 1800s. I thought we were talking about OBEAH in the 21st century. So I will concede that in the 1700s and the 1800s, the church in those days, which is not the same as the church today, is as you say. But I thought, Mr. Chairman, you invited me here to talk about OBEAH in the 21st century. But I find myself being placed in the 19th century and the 18th century by these panelists.
I think before
they respond to that, let me ask Clinton a question. Clinton, is anything evil? Do you believe in evil?
That, please.
Do you believe in evil?
Yes, one is being committed against the Palestinians right now.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
As it was committed against the Tainos.
Absolutely right.
1 million Africans were brought to Jamaica during slavery.
Don't get off the track.
And by the time slavery was abolished,
Desmond,
he's asking you to stay on track.
Clinton, tell me about the Reverend Kevin Smith in St. James in Montego Bay.
Yes.
Freedom of religion, right?
Yes.
Isn't that right? So we don't call the man cult. The man has a genuine religion.
Who?
That Clinton is prepared to defend under the term of freedom of religion. If people want to offer themselves, Clinton, as human sacrifice, what is wrong with that?
Who am I prepared to defend?
What is wrong with human beings offering themselves as human sacrifice? Why was Kevin Smith arrested? He should have not been arrested. And I hope Bert Samuels would have defended him.
Look. First of all, the struggle to end the desecration of black people's belief system, the struggle to end the desecration of the black body and what it stands, what is
Kevin
for.
Smith doing evil.
Let me finish now, man. the struggle to make Christianity respond to the needs of the Jamaican population, as in other population, was because the people themselves. If you look at Marcus Garvey's response to Christianity and his use of it to help to create what we call Garveyism today.
Marcus Garvey became a Catholic.
That is neither here nor there. because all of the things that he has stated before, he was not a Catholic when he stated those things. What we call Garveyism today was there before Garvey became Catholic.
But Prof, when a man says to another man today, I'm going to go obey you.
Yes.
What is that?
That's good. That's good because there's no evil. Clinton says there's no evil.
Leaning towards evil, or is that person dealing with spirituality? A man say, I'm going to obey you.
That's good.
If a man say I'm going to obey me, people use that to scare people.
That's why it's illegal. That's why it's illegal.
Nobody could say that to me and make me flinch.
No, people don't usually say that.
No, because guess what? The church today, and when I say the church, I'm not making a generalized statement about the church. Because most of the church have not come out against OBEAH. There's a small group of church people who are living in the 18th, 19th, and early 20th.
No, we're being nuanced. I like the argument. You're getting nearer.
So we can talk about that. What I am saying, insofar as black people help to liberate Christianity from the clutches of the slaveholders and the colonialists, it is by way of black people in the Americas generally, including Jamaica, and the Catholics in South America, who created what we call liberation theology.
Absolutely right.
Right?
Yes.
So that I am not against Christianity. What I'm saying, the people placed in a condition of oppression use the occasion to create something that is liberating. That's what it has done. But it did not mean, if we look at the history of revival people in Jamaica today are still being looked upon as less than.
Clinton, you and I have met in what town? At the Jerusalem schoolroom several times.
I've been going there for over 25 years.
And you and I know that the people in the Jerusalem schoolroom, the revival Zion people, are against OBEAH. You and I know that. Because they believe it's evil.
Look, if you can call a word, what I do know, if the practices of revival people in Jamaica, because what has happened under the OBEAH Act, or the law, is that any policeman can go into somebody's house and look at something and say these are OBEAH implements, and you are arrested.
I think that is not a good interpretation of the act. I think the act.
No. It is. In fact, it's a 1901 case.
Trying to lamp people. The guy in Montego Bay, I think if he appeals that case, he will win. The charge will be dismissed. Because I think the policeman was absolutely out of order. The man wasn't trying to sell anybody anything. He wasn't trying to impose anything on anybody. He was not trying to fool up anybody. He was in the privacy of his house, lighting incense and praying. That cannot be a crime. And I think that Bert Samuel should help the man to appeal the case and he will win. But to overturn the OBEAH Act is an entirely different matter.
But you don't want the
OBEAH Act why he was arrested?
I want to remove the Mile prescription from the OBEAH Act because Mile is not OBEAH. Mile is not evil. Mile is good. Mile is revival Zion.
The law says OBEAH and Mile are one and the same.
I know the law says that. The law is absolutely ignorant. I'm controlling my language. I would have said, damn ignorant. You must remove the prescription from Mile. Mile is false. I support Mile.
Give Prof a chance to respond. Prof, your time to respond to that.
The point is, under the law,
Desmond, allow Prof Desmond. I can just, and you come in after.
Under the law, historically, the police's task to determine what is OBEAH. Right? And that has been challenged from the 19th century. The 1901, for example, which is early 20th century, beginning of 20th century, actually said the Supreme Court justice who struck down one of the elements of the OBEAH thing then said that what it does is that it assumes the guilt of people until they are proven innocent. Right? And that has always been a big problem from that time to this time with the OBEAH law. He also noted that in Britain, they have struck down those things, and I mean Jamaica became independent in 1962. The OBEAH law in Anguilla, which is a British colony right now, is no longer there. You know why it's no longer there? Because the British has passed that. They've gone past that. While we, the victim of it, are not we, some of us, the victims, are still hugging up that. That part of the church which states that, oh, well, OBEAH is going to make us be afraid, and it's going to bring violence, and it's going to do this, and it's going to do that. Where is their faith in Christ?
Desmond, your
Where
time.
is their faith in Christ?
Desmond, your time.
I was about to say that the same impact when a man say, I'm going to obey you, he's trying to drive fear. And similarly, the pastors from these Western churches and the pulpit telling us that God is going to come with fire and brimstone to destroy the earth, driving fear. So when it's a similar thing, when a man says, I'm going to obey you, that is just used to drive fear. I like Professor myself, I when somebody said that to me, that has no impact on me.
No, not at all. Winnie shaking her head. Winnie,
I am shaking my head because usually people don't come and say, I am going to obey you. It's usually a secret act. And when they see people acting strangely, they say, oh, so-and-so, go so-and-so to obey you. People don't threaten you with obey.
No, that's not
usually.
True. People threaten you. No, it's all the time. People threaten you.
People have different experiences.
No, people threaten you.
I speak for what I know, and you speak for what you know. What I know is that usually they don't come and tell you. You go to somebody and they read you up and say, is so-and-so obey you. You just notice that something going on with you.
No, the whole of that is evil though, Winnie.
It is evil, and that is why. Why it's important to... Why should you do that to hurt people?
No,
why
look. Let us be very clear on one thing.
Clinton, right? Let
us be very clear on one thing. Is there a law against scamming in Jamaica?
Yes.
Of course.
There's a law against scamming.
As far as I know.
The part of the church that is now protesting the OBEAH law equates scamming into OBEAH.
What?
Right? With fraudulent behavior. Are there laws against fraudulent behavior in Jamaica?
Yes,
Do you have to have an OBEAH Act or OBEAH law to have laws against fraudulent behavior in the country? You don't have to. There are many laws in Jamaica that are against fraudulent behavior.
Yeah. The different kinds of fraudulent behavior.
Including some behavior that is deemed to be OBEAH. In other words, you don't have to have OBEAH law in order to prosecute fraud.
Why so?
In Jamaica.
I agree with that.
Because there are 10 different kinds of fraudulent, maybe you have 10 different kinds of anti-fraudulent acts.
Peter Espeut, one Scarlet Smith is asking, why is Mr. Espeut so technical on things? Historical background is necessary too.
People are doing broad brush arguments. I started off by saying that people are saying the church. I want to include everybody.
By saying that.
And then they're saying African religion. I want to include both OBEAH and MIAL in the same basket. You can't do that.
I agree with you.
There's texture to life.
Yes.
There's texture to life. And then I say evil. And then I say, do we still have evil in the world? And Clinton says, yes, we have evil in Palestine. And I agree with him.
And here.
But I am asking whether Kevin Smith, what he was doing was evil.
Yes.
And no, everybody has dodged that question, you know.
I say yes.
I don't dodge it.
You say yes.
Not dodging it, sir.
You say yes. Then your religion does not apply to Kevin Smith.
No. I'm not dodging it. What I'm saying, you know, what I'm saying, there are laws in Jamaica to deal with people like Kevin Smith. There are laws in Jamaica to deal with them.
And Kevin Smith was not practice any African religion.
He was not being persecuted between OBEAH.
Well, let me ask you a question. You ever heard of a man called De Lawrence? You ever heard of a man named De Lawrence?
Yeah.
Where did Lawrence come from? Lawrence is a white man, come from United States.
Yes.
Nowadays, a lot of OBEAH is laced with De Lawrence. It's no longer African religion.
All right.
So,
have you ever read De Lawrence?
Does that mean?
Peter, we're wrapping up now. We're wrapping up this segment.
The 6 and 7 books of Moses.
This is being.
These were all banned in Jamaica.
This discussion is being captured by Afrophiles because they say that people are trying to attack Africa. We're not attacking Africa. We're attacking evil.
No. Peter, you're getting 30 seconds now to just make your last point, and then I got to talk. We're wrapping up now.
I made my point very clear. I think that
30 seconds.
MIAL should be removed from the OBEAH Act. I think MIAL, which includes Revival Zion, is good and must be removed from the OBEAH Act, so it's not illegal. But as for the evil part of it, it must remain.
All right.
And Western.
Prof, your time and then Desmond. Prof?
Yes.
Peter.
We're coming to JUTC right after. Prof?
The OBEAH law has been used for centuries to keep down, to bottle up the energies and the beliefs of people of African descent, because these were considered to be uncivilized, and uncivilized people don't behave that way. There are laws in Jamaica, are laws that can be made which are opposed to people committing crimes. You don't need an OBEAH law in order to prosecute criminal behavior. You don't.
One minute. Desmond, you wanted to say before we move on to JUTC as well?
Yes, I am saying Western imposed religion has deceived black people in Jamaica.
Right, Peter says he will take you on that at another time.
MIALism is not Western imposed religion, and MIALism is against OBEAH.
And you'll say you will take him on another time on that, Peter.
And Christianity has always been against MIALism. That's the history of it in Jamaica.
You can't say always. You say you're being so broad brush. Christianity doesn't include everybody.
We'll finish that segment of the program.
No,
continue it.
It's not true, Clinton.
Continue it.
You can't broad brush everybody with one brush and say Christianity.
No. I have already stated
that's dishonest.
That many Christians are opposed, are against the OBEAH. I know that.
All right. Professor,
I know that. What I'm saying, the history, this from the law was first passed in 1760, throughout, that's the 18th century, throughout the 19th century, throughout most of the 20th century, to this time. And revival people can tell you that.
Thank Professor Clinton Hutton. and Deacon and Gleaner columnist, long-time commentator, Peter Espeut. We want to thank both of you because we're going to another little segment. We're going to take on JUTC now. But thanks a lot, Peter. And Desmond wants to take you on black versus white religion. Our religion.
I know.
We'll come back
That's
here
what
one
this
day.
is really about.
Thanks a lot.
It's not really about OBEAH. This is about Afrophilia against I don't know what.
The law. You know that to make Paul Bogle national hero is inconsistent.
Gentlemen, and we should say that Jeffrey Ward did ask in response to I wish I've read it before Peter came up, what Kevin Smith was doing wasn't good in my opinion. And he was referring to the comments that Peter Espeut was making about evil. Now we welcome Chantal Thompson, Communications Director of JUTC. The company last week launched a rural bus service to connect several major towns with the corporate area. Those towns include OBEAH, Rios, Montego Bay, Maypen, and I think Negril and others. Ms. Thompson, welcome. What's the expectation for this service, and how were the first few days after you launched it?
Sure. Hi, good afternoon, listeners and everyone online. The service has been good so far. We officially launched last week, Wednesday, and on October 1. We did our launch a little bit different. We took some social media travel influencers on our Ocherius leg to Duns River and, to have some food. So in doing that, we got some real-time feedback about our new buses because the route for the Montego Bay, Ocherius, and Negril will be using one of our new buses, which is our luxury coach bus. This is where, you have the charging ports, you have undercarriage, your seat can recline, you have your personalized AC. So we really wanted to get authentic feedback from that. So far, from the public, they love it, especially because it's just $2,000, except for the Maypen Express, which is $1,500. So they love that they could.
Sorry, it's $3,000 for which leg?
$2,000 for Montego Bay, Mandeville, Ocherius, and Negril, and for the Maypen Express, it is $1,500.
Okay, so whether you're taking it from Kingston, let's be clear. You're taking it from Kingston and you're going to Ocherius. It's the same price as if you were going to Montego Bay?
Yes.
Okay. Why is that? And can you tell us, what did you do was any market research done before you put on the service?
Yeah, so before we put on any of our JUTC services, we do stakeholder consultations, we do surveys with the public. We have a very good service planning team that interacts with the public and also to do route testing before, we put on these routes. We chose $2,000 because we wanted to be in the middle. And we're not saying that it's going to be $2,000 forever, but we wanted an introductory fare to continue to test out the route. And then once we have if there's any kinks, and once we have the take up and everything is going seamlessly, eventually we will raise. But we wanted to be in the middle ground, not too high and not too low. And we found that $2,000 was okay. And, based on some public feedback, they are okay with the $2,000 as well.
And this is something that was done by JUTC to improve its income earning, right?
It's not about income earning, but we realize that on those specific routes, there is a call for more transportation. So we have the regular bus services, and we have a Knoxford, but they can't carry everybody. Especially, I could give you an example. I got a call from Mandeville and from Ocherius, and they're saying that they live in Mandeville and they live in Ocherius, and based on our times and where they work, they don't have to move to Kingston anymore. They can take the transportation. So, for example, the Mandeville bus and the Ocherius, they leave at 5:30 from Mandeville and from Ochi. The Mandeville goes downtown by 7:30. If you reach downtown where you live or you work in the area, you just take another taxi and you're at work.
Yes. It is good to see that. Good to see that you are taking steps to improve your income. But one thing I want you to understand, the service in the corporate area is still way below standard. Buses are not arriving on time. People are still standing up for hours at bus stops. And therefore, I think the JUTC should address the situation with passengers on their regular routes while they are expanding to provide service and earn income.
So there's a lot of things to take into consideration with that. So we've just received almost, I think, 100 new buses, and we would have allotted more buses on our Portmore to Spanish Town routes. But you have to understand that the traffic has increased. So when we put out our bus routes, we do enough time to get in Kingston and to leave out. So it is the traffic that is causing it. It is not that we're not catering to the route. We have put more buses on the route, but the traffic is just ridiculous. You could think of, I drive and I live 30 minutes from where I need to go. A 30-minute route now takes me 1 hour and 15 minutes. That has nothing to do with JUTC. That has nothing to do with the private sector. But it's just how the traffic is, and not to mention now when there's also road work. So we are catering to those routes. We put more buses on the
But you're not telling the public that JUTC has enough buses that is required to transport passengers, though. That's not what you are saying.
But I have communicated with the public. So let's take it a step back. Before we got our new buses in June, we did a survey and we asked the public, where do we need more buses? And based on the surveys that we got, we've allotted more buses on those routes. The public can say that.
I have a question. From a viewer, Ms. Thompson. It's on my WhatsApp. A number of us in St. Catherine and as far as Maypen would love to use this service. Will the JUTC put a stop in Spanish Town so we do not have to travel to Kingston to get into these buses for Montego Bay and Negril?
So we're open to more routes and to put more stops, but it's based on commuter demand. So what we've done is that if you request a stop here or a route there, we have to do a survey to say, is it needed? And how many persons will take up that route, and then you put it on it, because it doesn't make sense. It is, say the bus has 51 seats and only 10 persons wants that route, then it wouldn't be feasible for it wouldn't be cost effective for JUTC. But however, if persons are, so we are not on the ground every day, so if it's that persons are requesting more routes, I can give my email address, and once we get those routes, we do assessment, we put our service planning team on the ground, and then we see the feasibility versus cost effective for JUTC.
Well, I just wanted to ask you, because I'm not clear on some of this, and that's one of our viewers is asking your question, but I'm not clear on this, Ms. Thompson. When you leave Kingston, is it downtown Kingston that you get onto the bus?
It's halfway tree because it's an express
halfway tree
route, right? The express routes don't stop. So what we're
all express routes leave your center at halfway tree. Is that correct?
Yes.
All express. So you leave us.
That is the Mandeville Express. That is the Maypen Express, the Montego Bay Express, the Ocherius Express, and the Negril Express. Where we stop in those areas are toll areas. So, for example, when one of the Negril route will stop in Savo, but express routes are not meant to stop in like a regular bus route. It's to get you there quicker and faster.
Okay. Now, is it a $2,000 charge you said on the Ocherius route?
Yes.
2,000. So how would you expect to compete with? How would you be expecting to compete with?
Knutsford.
You're undercutting Knutsford.
No,
and you are. What I wanted to ask you is this: two things. Have you discussed within JUTC, within the system, that there are some private operators out there who are doing business, and you are subsidized by the Jamaican people, and you are likely going to push some people, not for they can take care of themselves, especially the buses that now do those routes. You are possibly going to undermine them.
So actually, the take-up is different than what you're saying, because when we were in Ocharias Bus Park, when we were in
Yeah.
Mandible Bus Park, they were happy and welcoming, because you know what they're saying. You cannot carry everyone. Sometimes in the buses, because I can't carry everybody, you're standing up. The bus is overpacked, which may cause accidents. We have a lot of people in Jamaica that needs to move across the different parishes, and there's space for everybody. There are persons who don't take Knoxford because of the time. There's persons who don't take the bus or the taxi, because by the time they reach, the taxi buses are loaded up and gone already. So there's space for everyone. Nobody's being understood.
Ms. Thompson, how do we get the schedules? How do people get the schedules? Is there a number? Is there a
So
website?
all the
What?
schedules are on our social media pages at JUTC LTD. Every information you need is on our Instagram, it's on our Facebook, and soon it will also be on our website. But
And how
everything,
many buses per day go between Kingston and Montego Bay now? Is that one or is that
it is two
two?
based on the schedule, it's two. So if you look on the Montego Bay schedule that you had up just now, um, yeah. So if you look at it, we have the two from Halfway Tree, and then we have the two trips per. There you go. The schedule says it. So two from
Okay.
Halfway Tree and two from Montego Bay. And
Okay.
I must say the buses were filled the first day on October 1, and they were asking for more times.
Okay. Mr. Richards, Carlin Smith was asking, are you saying that the rural areas should not be provided with buses because the regular routes are not logistically efficient?
No, what I'm saying is that if there's an
No, that was, sorry, Ms.
No,
Thompson, that
not
was
you,
yourself,
not you.
Desmond Richards.
okay.
Who was harassing
No,
you about that.
that is not what I am saying. I am saying that while the JUTC is expanding its service, they must be mindful that the corporate area routes are under they are not being
Underserved.
served,
Yeah.
underserved. Yes, that's what I am saying.
Yeah.
And
Well,
the other thing that the JUTC must, the JUTC must just be punctual. The JUTC is losing lots of money, millions, and what this new route that they have expanded is an attempt, or is being done to improve income. Miss, what is the JUTC losses so far last year? What was the losses last year? And what are the losses likely to be this year?
I don't have the figures with me now, because I was coming to talk about the good news about the Rural Express route. So I don't have those figures with me right now.
I saw a figure of 10 billion last year, but your $2,000 fare to Thompson, 2,000 to Montego Bay, that is significantly undercutting JUTC. 2,000
You
to
mean not good?
Oceria. Sorry, Knutsford, I'm sorry. That's
That's
undercutting, significantly undercutting Knutsford. And your $2,000 to Oceria from Kingston is undercutting Knutsford as well. So we'll see how it goes. And you said you have done your surveys, but we'll see what happens. And whether you make money on these routes, Desmond Richards is saying. Your final word, Miss Thompson?
I will just continue to do as best as we can. We have gotten positive feedback from the commuters, positive feedback from the taxi operators, and we are just here to provide reliable, safe, and affordable transportation to the public of Jamaica, and that is what we're doing. And the people seem
Okay.
happy so far, and we will continue to do that.
We want to
Yes.
thank you very much, Ms. Thompson, for coming here and expressing, telling us what JUTC is doing. I know that there are lots of details that we weren't able to get on this program. You have to see the times that you are going out. As you have said, you're on. People can just check those on the
Yes.
social media
Let's
pages.
go on our Instagram at JUTC LTD, and all of our routes information are there.
That's our show for this week. Please remember, you may watch
Yes.
the recorded version on the Frankly Speaking Jamaica YouTube channel at any time. Please, if you have not yet done so, please subscribe. Thanks to Professor Clinton Hutton and Peter Espeut for taking us through the first segment of the show on OBEAH. Thanks to Desmond Richards and Winnie Anderson Brown, our ever faithful team members. And thanks to you, Ms. Chantal Thompson, for telling us about the JUTC Rural Expert Service. And to you, our viewers and listeners, special thanks. Also special thanks to Joshua Black of Joshua Black Media Services. On behalf of all of us, I'm Frankly McKnight. Until then.
Yes.
Do the buses have Wi-Fi? Like not fun?
Miss Thompson is not there.
I know. I was trying to ask it before.